Hello, my name is Kofi Bamfo. Welcome to my channel. In my last series of videos, I went over the topic of hell and how hell doesn't exist. So if hell doesn't exist, then what do we do about that pesky old serpent called the devil? Does he really exist? That's what we're about to find out. First of all, let's clear the air. There is no such thing as the devil. Lucifer, whom God kicked out of heaven and banished into the pit of hell, and then came to earth to seduce people to do bad things, doesn't exist and never did. Lucifer is mentioned once in the Bible, and not once is Lucifer referred to as some fallen angel or some celestial being named the devil. But he is, however, referred to as Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. In ancient times, people didn't understand or know what they were experiencing when it came to the negative fear-based aspect of their own consciousness. They didn't know that demons or the devil stemmed from a portion of their own consciousness, their own psyche. If a person was going through a degree of psychosis or psychotic shock or trauma or delusion, then the voices they would hear in their mind, they will project these voices as something outside of themselves, and they will ascribe to it as the devil or demons. When it comes to the spirit realm, we use physical props all around us as representations to appropriate and interpret spiritual concepts. Everything and anything is conceived from the spirit realm, like the Jewish star, as above, so below. The mind and the heart are the receiver of information from the spirit realm, but it needs to be interpreted through imagery that our mind can comprehend, conceptualize. So it uses archetypes, the other, things outside of ourselves to solidify a thought or an idea. Our personality structure is made up of three components: the positive, the negative, and the neutral. What we say to ourselves, words that come in from the world around us, even from the spirit realm, is filtered through any one of these components at any given time and is colored by our belief system. So if you have a negative fear-based belief system surrounding demons, then voices that come into your mind is animated and reflected by the negative aspect of your own psyche. The neutral filter is the observer, the information gatherer. You're not necessarily having an opinion, you're just objectively observing things on a day-to-day. The negative filter and the positive filter are each broken down a little further to two categories, the masculine and the feminine components of our psyche. These two categories on either side are bracketing the neutral observer. On the negative masculine side, you have that critical voice, the father of lies, that judgmental voice that says you're not living up to your full potential, you're not good enough, you're not worthy. On the negative feminine side, you have the seducer, the tempter, the whore of Babylon, the deceiver, the snake. This is where we get the story of Adam and Eve, that snake tempting the feminine side of the masculine consciousness. Has God really said not to eat of any tree in the garden? Because of these stories in ancient times, women were looked down upon because they were considered more vulnerable to deception, more inclined to diss Eve. These are stories anchored in the negative collective consciousness passed down throughout the ages that led to women having to cover themselves, or women not being allowed to speak in a public setting or travel without a man. And even in the Bible, something that we uphold as coming from God, Paul the Apostle wrote to certain leaders and said that women were not allowed to speak in the church, and if they had anything to say, they should ask their husbands at home. These were more than just misogynistic ideas. They were rooted in the negative feminine aspect of their own consciousness and projected on their counterpart, the woman. We see this play out in the book of John when Jesus was speaking with the woman at the well. As the disciples were approaching him, they were shocked that he was alone with a woman. So the deceiver wants to get you to do something that's out of alignment with yourself, out of integrity, to get you to believe that the end justifies the means. So it wants you to utilize the negative means to deceive yourself into thinking by lying, stealing, cheating, or manipulating. Well, if it gets you to where you want to be, then once you get there, you can use it for a positive result. But that's the deception. Doing things out of integrity, out of alignment with yourself is a longer road, is a harder road, and oftentimes can lead to a dead end. On the positive side, you have the supportive parents, the supportive father, and the nurturing mother that guides you into maturity, more alignment with yourself at the core, which is light, your creativity, your joy, your passion, your unconditional love of self. After Jesus had fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, it says that he had suffered from hunger. Now, I don't know about you, but if I fast for more than 24 hours, I'm going to be cranky. If I fast for 5 days straight with only water, I'm probably going to be delusional. So I can't imagine what it was like for him to fast for 40 days and 40 nights. But what I can tell you is that after he had fasted, the tempter, or the devil, came to him and said, "If thou art truly the Son of God, turn these stones into bread." Now, Jesus was not tempted by a being outside of himself. He was not tempted by a celestial being called the devil. He was hearing voices in his own head. This was written in a way to give this voice an archetypal identity and projected as some other entity outside of himself, as if he's having a conversation with some other being. But he's not. He's having a back and forth within his own mind, from the positive to the negative, positive to the negative. This is what we euphemistically call spiritual warfare or mental warfare. You can't see it, but you can feel the exhaustion. Because leading up to the moments where he had just been tempted by the deceiver, he had one of the most proudest moments in his life. He had been baptized by John the Baptist, who even said himself that he was not worthy to tie his shoes. And as Jesus is being baptized, he hears a voice from the supportive Father who says to him, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." And then off he goes, being led into the wilderness, a place where you rid yourself of unfruitful thoughts that don't align with what the supportive parents have said over you. In order for Jesus to experience the brilliance of who he was on the Mount of Transfiguration, he had to go through the wilderness of transformation. Demon possession. Demon possession isn't real. Again, these are archetypal identities representing the negative aspect of our own consciousness, told through stories passed down throughout the ages, because people don't understand, especially back then, that physical reality isn't real. It's a projection of our own consciousness. So these voices in their mind reflected back to them these visceral images as something taken over their mind, taken over their body. When really all they're doing is using their power to make it seem like they're powerless. You cannot be possessed by anyone else. You don't have enough room within you to be possessed by anyone else. You're full of yourself. You're not in your body anyway. Your body's within your own consciousness. Physical reality is a projection of our consciousness. Our bodies are a reflection of our consciousness. Do you know how you can tell that physical reality is not real? You die. Your physical body dies. Anything that is real doesn't fade, doesn't die. The real you is pure light, pure consciousness, eternal. We're spirits. In fact, we're in spirit right now, creating this illusion of physical reality by projecting our consciousness downward to a lower vibratory state, a lower density state of being, in order to create a physical experience. This is why we need sleep, to go back into spirit, because it takes a level of focus, a level of energy to create the physical plane of existence. Physical reality is not real. Only the experience is real. So when we sleep, we wake up. And when we wake up, we're actually going to sleep. But if it wasn't made to seem real by choosing to forget that it's not real, then it wouldn't be consequential, and our choices wouldn't matter. And if our choices didn't matter, then we wouldn't be able to transform it. You can't transform things in spirit because time doesn't exist there. So whatever you think just appears. This is why when you dream in spirit, one moment you're at grandma's house, the next moment you're in college. The experience seems to just stack on top of one another. But in physical reality, when you throw time in the equation, one moment you're at grandma's house, that leads to the next moment, that leads to the next moment, that leads you to college. You're able to measure the experience through time. So in physical reality, it takes time for change to occur. So with demon possession, what a person believes to be true for them, it's true for them experientially. But it's time we modernized our definitions of the experiences that we're having and take them out of the old-fashioned ways of storytelling. It's time to tell the stories in a new way that bring clearer understandings of the mechanisms that underlie the experiences. The definition of the experience is not the same thing as the definition of the mechanism that underlie the experience. So now that we've exposed the devil, stay tuned for my next video where we expose God. Until next time, my name is Kofi Bamfo. Be well.